Welcome, everybody. So today's session's on the SOLIDWORKS PDM electrical integration. We also kind of call it the PDM electrical connector, not to be confused with the connectors you plug in, but basically bridging that gap between SOLIDWORKS PDM and SOLIDWORKS electrical. So that's kind of what we're getting in today. But before we dive into the software itself, let's go and kind of talk about who we are here briefly. So let's take a look at that. So this is me. So I'm a senior application engineer here with GoEngineer. Was with a couple of other resellers before getting acquired a few times, but I've been here at GoEngineer for a while and in the reseller channel I just passed my 17th year this past September. So I've got a CSWE, so Certified SOLIDWORKS expert. So in mechanical side of things, I'm also a Elite AE, so it's a certification internal to SOLIDWORKS resellers. So, and then as far as my background, electrical design, PDM integration, PDM, SOLIDWORKS mechanical. I've actually had a good chunk of my time in the mechanical side of things as well. But outside of work, this is me. So my wife and daughter and myself live in Central Arizona. It's technically they call it Northern Arizona, but it's more central as far as where I'm at. But and then enjoy traveling probably more once my daughter gets a little bit older. But we'll definitely get back to that, camping and that type of thing. But I'm also a fixer, builder, maker. Just to give you an idea, I've replaced 3 timing belts on my 96 4Runner. So that's just one of many hobbies that I work on. So I'll pass it over to John here.
I appreciate that, Michael. Hey, everybody. I'm John Semple. I'm an application engineer with an electrical specialty over here at GoEngineer. One of my main focuses right now is the PDM electrical integration, as well as electrical 2D and 3D. Coming from industry, my background is actually in industrial manufacturing, fabrication, and design, with a little sprinkle of technical documentation. And now I'm focused pretty much primarily on the electrical software package. So a little bit about me outside of work. Fly fishing, camping, those go hand in hand. I'm an extremely proud father of a giant 3-year-old. I don't know if it's something with COVID babies, but he's huge. And also enjoy my wrench time. Again, I just said I have a 3-year-old, so I need peace and quiet. This is all happening in lovely Cleveland, Ohio.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So let's kind of dive into some of the nuts and bolts here of what we're diving into to kind of wrap your head around it a little bit here first. So when you're dealing with SOLIDWORKS electrical, so some of you worked with SOLIDWORKS electrical that are on here, some of you haven't. But when you work on an electrical project, it lives inside electrical's project manager. So everything that is that project is in that project file. It's not an external file per se, but electrical does have a portable uh, file type that you can export. So a proj.tw zip. So if you need to capture versions of a particular project, or you need to transport that whole project, that's what that project is. So it's pretty all-encompassing. So it grabs the physical files that make up that project. So that's part of that file. It's also takes in the SQL database. So with electrical, every single project that gets created has an SQL database. So that gets stored when we archive out a project into that TWZip. And then again, everything that is that project. So symbols, manufacturer part definitions, it's a pure snapshot of that particular image. So I mentioned that a couple of times here, snapshot of the project, snapshot of that. So it's a good capture of that project in time. So it is everything that is that project. So definitely useful to kind of be aware of and take note of. And that's what we're essentially going to be dealing with as we push that in and out of SOLIDWORKS PDM. Which let's go on to the next slide here, which kind of dives into that aspect of it. So if you've never worked with a PDM software, it's product data management or file management. Really is kind of what the meat and potatoes of it. In fact, I'm going to go and bring up a vault view here. So this is kind of the idea of PDM. It's a special folder on your machine, typically on the root of the C drive. But I kind of call it like a folder on steroids because we have the folder structure itself, but then we also have all of the data that kind of tracks with the files there as well. Preview tab, bill of materials tab, all that type of stuff is there as well. So to that point, kind of the intention of PDM is to organize, store, and collaborate, version control as well, and then searchability. So we definitely have some metadata. So the little information that gets showed on the data card is information about the file. So data about data. Okay. Um, and then we'll go and hit the kind of the other aspect of the workflows there too. So be able to control visibility and approvals and all that type of stuff, plus a bunch more. Okay. So that is kind of the essence of what PDM is, and we're tying those two products together. So that's kind of the scope of what we're looking at today. Um, Another thing to point out is the functionality that you'll be seeing today. We go into these methods, but those are all done with PDM Professional. If you're running PDM Standard, there is a upgrade path to go from PDM Standard to PDM Professional, just because that's the version that's needed for the integration automation. It opens up the interface for those to exist at. So, all right. So let's take a look at the methods here. So I'm going to go and pass this over to John.
Hey, appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. Everybody should be able to see my screen now. So, the first three methods that we're going to take a quick look at here, they're all very limited in functionality, but I still want to go over these. The main thing to take away, the first initial three methods are configured within this link to PDM configuration command on the tools toolbar within schematic. Once we open this command up, we should see a new interface. And this is where we have access to the different methods. We can see initially, I've got this basic export to folder. We also have the advanced option, which has update files for PDM, use check-in, checkout buttons, and then finally a third-party integration. So the first three we'll take a look at, 1, 2, and 3. I'll just go ahead and start with export to folder. One other thing that I'd like to point out here, top level, this is where we choose which method of integration we'd like to use. Down below, this is where we configure the exports that we can take from the software. We can take an archive, a drawing, even 3D parts that are associated. We'll create a PDF, reporting, and even bills of material. They're all possible exports here. All right, so just taking a quick look at method number 1, we've got a couple of really great pros. So it's very simple to set up. It's a very easy way to export the PDF and the drawing to a networked drive within your organization. We do not also require PDM viewer licensing for this method. So lots of advantages here. However, it comes with limitations as well. We're not directly vaulting files. There's actually zero PDM interaction with this particular method. If the needed folder for export happens to be a vault folder, we have to go and do manual operations to complete that data transfer into PDM. Again, not automated. End users will notice, common to the first three methods, you must select the folder path per project for the different exports. So every time you go and export, you have to re-navigate back to that end location. Additionally, there's no way to unify or restrict any of the user settings, and there's no rollback available to the files themselves. So again, this is really just not really in PDM. This is simply exporting the project and some additional items into a folder. So moving down, and if I jump up here, going into advanced, now choosing the use update files for PDM button, this method just pushes updated files into PDM. It's a one-way push. There's no metadata from electrical that we can do any mapping with here. We are directly vaulting files. And that's the main difference between methods 1 and 2. This time around, the end user does not need to specify the base path, and it only pushes the latest copy of our files to the vault. A couple of the cons with method 2, however, end users still need to specify their project paths. We are also not automatically checking in files with this method, so manual operation to get these files actually included into the PDM vault under version control. And again, no rollback, no way to unify any kind of settings here. All right, so jumping over to method 3. We do get a initial pop-up when we select this. Now, method 3 is getting closer to what we want. We're actually going to be vaulting files here. We can check in, we can check out. Now, however, when we're actually vaulting files, we have additional considerations to take on just enhanced capabilities. This dialog essentially will let us open up some information about PDM, about its management, administration. That way we really understand what we're getting into here. So with method 3, we are directly vaulting files. We're also automatically checking them in and out, and we are still only pushing the latest copy of files to the vault. One additional big pro, we're also automatically removing the local file from our electrical project manager. So it really handles the librarian transaction correctly. If we are checking that file in, we don't have access to it until we check it back out again. And again, last con here, we still can't map any metadata back to the project files. So we've gone over 3 different methods of getting electrical schematic data into the vault. Some are actually vaulting files, others include some manual processes. This is where method number 4 really comes into play. Method 4 employs a true link to PDM. And this is where we're allowing for automatic file vaulting, export creation, metadata mapping back to our files, and a more automated end user experience. So let's take a closer look at this functionality with the method 4 in a real world engineering department situation. Mike, I'll send it on over to you.
Excellent. Perfect, John. Thank you. All right, so just to kind of recap, essentially the methods that John was going through, the 1 through 3 there, and then we'll get into 4. So method 1, no PDM. It's just dumping it into folders and that type of stuff. We go on to the next method. Then we're actually getting into, yes, we get it into PDM Professional, and we're just pushing the updates in there, kind of bare minimum type of thing. Method 3 we get into is the, yes, we do check them out. We can check them back in, but we are not getting any metadata out of SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So let's kind of dive into method 4. So method 4 is the PDM electrical integration. So that's the one that John and I truly do think is the best for most companies as far as implementing that type of thing. It gives you the most functionality, gets you all the different setups and metadata and all that type of stuff for the interface. But the scenario that we're kind of mocking up here is John and I have access to PDM. So it's company-wide, it's PDM Pro, but we're at 2 different locations. So I'm in a scenario where I'm in office. I've got my machine. We have electrical actually on a server, and we have multiple users connecting to that same electrical server. John, however, is our lone wolf, if you will. He's standing in a separate location. He's not connected to the electrical server because he's outside of the office. And he is completely standalone. So his machine is the client and server all in one system there. As far as licensing goes, we are both using network licenses. So when I launch SOLIDWORKS, it pulls it from the license pool. When he launches it, it pulls a license for him as well. So we're still using the same pool of network licenses. It's just the electrical servers are split. But then as far as leveraging PDM, we're going to use it to push and pull our projects. So you'll see that I'll create a project, I'll push it into PDM, and then get some additional output documentation created. And then I'll send a notification over to John, letting him know that it's ready for his stuff to be done. and then we'll actually kind of talk about some of the benefits here. So to that point, before we actually dive into method 4, I'm not going to read through these. Most people, like myself, get a little bored with PowerPoints that are very wordy. But this is a lot of the key features and functionality of method 4 that you don't really get out of the other methods. I mean, yes, you could kind of argue that some of these could still be done with method 2 or method 3, but again, not to the level that we're looking at. So, all right. So I'm going to go and jump back onto my machine here again. So that should be coming across. Looks good. All right. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to go and create a new project. So I'm going to jump out of one folder, jump into a new project directory. And that's the other aspect of this is we're not restricted to wherever a specific spot in the vault. We can really go anywhere in the vault wherever we have permissions to do so. I'm going to leverage a PDM functionality to actually let it serialize this project. So I'm going to go and trigger this PDM template. And then we'll go and give it a description here. Webinar. And then my fancy contract number is 1 through 6 there. So I'm already collecting data that is searchable. It's going to create itself a folder here. So that exists inside of PDM. We've written some of the metadata into the folder data card. So that actually tracks there already. It's also created us a starter project. So this is a SOLIDWORKS electrical archive, but it's more or less empty. It still has some basic pages in it, a couple of folders, but there's really no drawing or schematic in it. So that's already established in PDM. It's already been checked in. It's already searchable at this point. So even before we go through and actually do anything. So let's go and jump into electrical itself. So this is SOLIDWORKS electrical schematic. So if you haven't seen it before, here's that project manager that I was talking about. When you use the PDM electrical integration, you still use the project manager, slightly different capacity though. So I'm going to go and close it for the moment. I'm going to go and jump over to my SOLIDWORKS PDM toolbar. So that's the other part of the integration side is we do get a separate toolbar for the PDM functionality. So on that tab, I'll go and jump into the open button and I'll browse in through my vault and find that new project that I just created. Which, by the way, I created that project in a File Explorer Vault view. I could technically right-click, create a new project right here in the Open dialog as well, too. So I could trigger that newly created project there. Again, the naming convention that we use for this is just how we set it up, but that's part of the customization and customize it to what you need it to be. All right, so there's my project. I'll go and open it. Upon open, it's going to ask me if I want to check it out. So that essentially puts the ownership of that project in my name. Therefore, I'm the one to go back and check it in. So even though I might be in an office where I've got multiple additional electrical users, I'm the one that checked it out of PDM, and other people could work on it. And we'll talk about that here in a sec. But there's that project. It does live in the project manager. So it's living in here. So other people could technically open it up on my same electrical server. Not John, because he's at a different site. But other users would not be able to work on the same drawing sheet as I can. And that's just typical SOLIDWORKS electrical. It has nothing to do with the PDM part of it. If you have multiple users connected to the same electrical server, that functionally does exist with multiple users opening it. Okay, so it does exist there. I'm going to go and throw some stuff onto the project here. I've got a couple of project macros that I'm just going to bring stuff in here and make it look like I'm working today. So I'm reusing this macro from some other project. So again, this is core SOLIDWORKS electrical functionality or electrical schematic functionality. So create it in one project, reuse it over and over and over again. We'll go and do one more here. Over on this control page, I've got another macro that'll bring that in. Again, so I don't have to redraw that. But again, this is a regular project. just like you would normally use electrical, multiple lines, insert MAC symbols, that type of thing. So at this point, if I was kind of end of the day type of thing, I could do one of a couple of different directions. I could check this into PDM, or I could just close out electrical. And tomorrow I could come back in, reopen up SOLIDWORKS Electrical, reopen the project from the project manager. So the focus or the purpose of PDM is, okay, when we hit major milestones or when we're done with the project, we push them into PDM itself. When we're actively working on them, they still live in the project manager. All right, so I'm going to go and do a check-in here. So I'm going to go and close out my windows just so the previews are up to date. Leaving the project open, jumping over to my SOLIDWORKS PDM tab. I'll go and do my check-in. Yep. So this first check-in screen that we'll see is actually just the new objects that are getting created. Okay. We'll get another check-in screen here in just a moment. If you've used PDM before, the second check-in screen is the one you're probably typically used to, where it gives us a list of all the objects that are being defined. All right, so there's my check-in screen. So we're creating a PDF. We'll talk about these bill of material files and then also these other ones. So I don't know if you can see that on the meeting, but these are manufacturer part definitions there. But I'm going to go and say keep checked out, and I'll go and say working version or something like that. Okay. And I'll go and say check in. And again, this is a note that shows up in the PDM history. And then I get another dialog here. This is basically indicating that there's a manufacturer part that exists in that project that doesn't have an equivalent or placeholder inside of PDM. So I'm going to actually abort here, and I want to get that synchronized into PDM. So what that is SOLIDWORKS Electrical has its own library of manufacturer part information. You can create your own, you can update them, that type of thing. I'm going to go and bring up the Amphenol here. So there's that fourth one that wasn't actually represented inside of PDM. And I'm going to go and change the library that it's in so that we can synchronize it. So I'll bring its properties up, get its library set, accept it there, and go and hit OK there. So now I want to create a definition of that manufacturer part info inside of PDM. So I'm going to synchronize it. I'll go and let it do everything. And then when it finishes, the dialog just goes away. So what did that do? Well, let's detour here for just a moment. So I'm going to jump back into my vault view outside of the project. So I'm going to go back up to the root of the vault. I've got another spot in my vault here that is library items. So in the library, we have essentially equivalent bits of metadata that are coming down from PDM, or sorry, from electrical there. So this data card, or this virtual data card, its sole purpose in life is basically a data card of information. So this information got created based off of us telling it, okay, that's the library that we want to synchronize, and actually synchronizing. So now this becomes searchable metadata for other people in the company of, okay, this manufacturer part, here's all the other stuff that pertains to it. And again, this is customizable depending on what information that you're wanting to do with it. All right, so I'm going to jump back over to the 220 folder there. Get a little preview here, but want to go and do the final check-in here. So I'm going to go and minimize that for a moment. So let me go and actually do an official check-in here. So we aborted the check-in, if you recall, because we didn't have that manufacturer info in there. So I'm going to do a check-in here. And we'll get the regular check-in dialog in just a moment here. Again, it's building updated versions of everything. It's actually going through and it's going to update reports and all that type of stuff. I'll go and say done. Let's see, ready for John stuff. All right, so there's my notes there. This time I am going to tell it to remove the local copy. It's still going to create a new version of this project inside of PDM, so I do get a new version of it. But when I tell it to remove it, it's going to do a few things. It's going to remove it from the cache that's of my vault view. But then it's also going to close it out of electrical. It's also going to remove it from the project manager. So we'll see that here after I do the check-in. So it finishes building everything. It's going to check everything in. And there we go. So it closes it out from being open in electrical. And now it's actually removed from my project manager. The idea there is now PDM is the single point of truth of that particular project. So it exists in PDM and it's not in the project manager of the electrical server that I'm actually attached to. All right, so now let's take a look at the Vault view there again. All right, so let's go and refresh that folder. So when I triggered the PDM template, it created a starter project. We worked on it, we checked it in. We're up to version 3 of this file now. But during the check-in, one of the advantages of the PDM electrical integration is we can have it generate additional outputs. And John will probably mention this one as well too, but we have the PDF, we have Excel documents. So if we could technically take an Excel document from the project tree and check those in, I don't know if we'll have time to show that today, but and then we also have these bill of material files. So let's go into that directory. So in the process of doing the check-in, it creates this placeholder, essentially a child object. And that placeholder basically says is in this electrical location, and this is defined by the component tree inside of electrical. It contains these number of items in that particular project. So we have Molex crimp tunnels. There's 4 of them being used in this particular project. So whether it be bill of materials or contains, we're getting bill of material information in PDM. Again, searchable info visible to other people that have access to the PDM vault. And going back up here, if we look at the project itself, the project is the parent. So it essentially has a record of, okay, the TW zip, the zipped version of that archive, the PDF, if there's any Excel documents, they would show up here as well, and then all of the location information there. Okay. All right, so let's go and do a notification to let John know that he's ready to start working on this. So I'll go and trigger a PDM functionality to notify a colleague there. Okay, so let me not bore you with the notes here. I'm going to copy and paste to speed up that part of it. So I'm going to notify John. That's the subject of what it is. And then I'll go and get in my little letter that I'm going to send to him. Let's see, let's go and paste that in. I'm going to go and create myself a link to that so it's a little bit easier for him to get to it. Right click, grab a copy link there, throw that into my notification, and then I'll go and just, oops, if I can spell thanks today. There we go. All right, so I'll go and send that notification so that when we jump back over to John's screen, you'll be able to see that he gets a notification there. All right. And I think that's everything that I wanted to show for this round. So I'm going to go and stop my screen share here and then pass it back over to John.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, let me go ahead and get the screen shared. And there we go. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our assigned electrical task for today's presentation. So jumping over to my workstation, first, I need to log into PDM. So go ahead, log in there. And let's see, we should have a small delay and then a notification pop up. PDM, there we go. Awesome. That was very delayed, but we've got a PDM notification. I'll go ahead and open this up. Looks like Mike sent me a message. I've got a couple tasks that I need to complete. I've got a created project. I need to add an assembly file and then link that mechanical assembly to our electrical project. Then additionally, I need to do a couple of other cleanup items in regards to the schematics themselves. So I can go ahead and get running here. Let me go ahead and click that link that Mike graciously provided me. I do not have to worry about navigating through my vault. And we can take just a quick look at the project in question. Looks like SW220. We're doing it for the purpose of our Hello webinar. We have a couple other pieces of info. I can see when Mike created that file, some other basic info. So for my first task, I need to create that electrical assembly. Very similar to the method that we're creating the electrical project, we actually have a separate template. And when I go ahead and fire that off, you'll notice it's actually pre-populating our project number and our project description. All right, so this is something that we can customize. I'll go ahead, click OK, and that creates a mechanical assembly file for me sitting right in my project directory. I'm ready to go ahead and hit the ground running. We're going to jump over to the Schematics software, back to our PDM toolbar, and now I'm going to go and open that project. We'll connect up to the vault, navigate back to that project directory, and we're going to open up the project file itself. All right, go ahead and click open. Again, we're asked if we want to check this file out. I most certainly do. I'll go ahead and finish that checkout. Now the system's bringing this project local, and I'll be able to get some work done. All right, so let me close out of our project manager. Let's take a quick look at the drawing tree. Looks like I've got a folder specific for 3D assemblies. That's my first course of action here. I need to get that assembly linked up. So in order to do that, I'll jump into the SOLIDWORKS assembly area, and we're going to go ahead and link up the overall project level to this assembly. And you'll notice these are all done via locations as defined within the schematic software. All right, go ahead and click open there. We should see our target file path go ahead and get loaded. I'll go ahead and click OK. All right, do a little bit of cleanup here. I'll drag that into the correct folder. So my next course of action, I need to add some more schematics. I'll go jump in, create a new schematic, and let's go ahead and activate a macro pane. One of my favorite functionalities of this software. Reuse data, do not recreate. We'll jump right in, add in our design information, and like Michael alluded to, oh, my mouse went a little wonky there. We can jump over to the electrical project tab. We can generate some additional project documentation. I'll jump through, hit all my different reports, and it looks like we may actually have time to showcase a small functionality. I'll show everybody how we can actually take these reports and selectively embed them into our project as separate Excel files that we can have full edit rights over, and we can actually add them to our project tree. So once this processes, we should see a couple new documents get added to that tree. All right, so I've done quite a few things in this project. We've added pages, added design work. I need to convey that within the in-tool electrical revision suite. So once I pop that open, right-click a book, go to revisions, we have our revision tool. It's essentially very simple. We validate, verify, and approve our revisions. I'll go ahead, toss this revision onto each individual document, and I'll go ahead and click OK. I don't need to do anything for these next two options, but we will point out when you jump into the bottom right corner, now that revision information is contained within our print. All right, so at this stage in the game, this file is completely ready for my mechanical team to jump in and do some electrical associating within the mechanical model. So I'm actually ready to go ahead and check this back into PDM. We're jumping back up to that toolbar. We're going to hit check in. And at this point, again, we're going to recreate all of those different exports, and we're additionally adding new documents here. All of the Excel files that never existed before. We even have a new location because I added another harness and created a new mark for that location. So we're getting a new SWE bomb file as well. I'll jump through, add those files into the vault, and we should get another check-in screen here in just a moment. The software is currently going through, exporting drawings, PDFs, actually pulling out those Excel files, and we'll take a look at the result here in just a moment. All right, last but not least, we can point out the parent-child relationship as seen here as well. We can collapse down the top level project and see all of our child documentation underneath all of our different exports, our bill of material information, even the mechanical assembly itself. I'll go ahead, hit check in, and this will finalize. And I did forget one thing. I didn't want to keep working on that project, so it actually remains in my project manager. I could go ahead and close this out and very simply delete it from my project manager. That way, one source of truth, that is going to be in PDM. There's no second copy of this floating around at all. All right, so last step before I toss this back over to Mike, I'm going to go ahead, quickly refresh my directory. We can see our different exports, and I'll jump into this Excel. We've actually created a new subdirectory, again, customized naming convention, and we get Excel documents for each one of those particular reports. Customized data mapping occurring between those files. And to shore this all up, my next step, workflow integration. This file is in a workflow. I need to send this on over to the next step. That way my mechanical team can go and do their thing. So I'll go ahead, send that to released, enter in a very quick note, and we'll jump in, change our state. All right, let me pass this back over to Mike. That way we can take a closer look at the electrical workflow.
So our workflow, there it goes, is actually pretty simple. Nothing really fancy to it. So we have a work in progress. So it's uh, a, a read-write state basically, and then the send to release is the production release there. So essentially locked, unlocked, that type of thing. As far as the workflow goes, workflows can be made a little bit more elaborate, but do keep in mind that there are certain things that happen or can be done on the mechanical side of things. So a SOLIDWORKS CAD drawing, that those types of hooks don't necessarily exist on the SOLIDWORKS electrical side of things, though. And again, we'll go into how you get more information after the presentation here. So let me go and jump back into my vault here for just a moment, just to throw in one more little tidbit. So we did those manufacturer parts, right? We synchronized those into the vault. So if I did leverage the search functionality inside of PDM, told it to search the entire folder there, I can jump over to that particular part. And okay, it's just metadata, so it's this data card. But if I look at the where used, I can very quickly with the manufacturer part info see what projects actually use that particular part in my vault. So purchasing comes to you and says they can't get it from that particular vendor anymore. You got to switch to a new part. This is your additional source of tracking that information down there. All right, so I'm going to go and bring up another PowerPoint slide here. This is just kind of a quick highlight of some of the items that you saw as far as what the PDM electrical integration, or we also call it method 4, or we also call it PDM electrical connector, but that's kind of some of the highlights there for that as well.